I know everyone's been waiting for me to talk about Salo, so I'm just going to get right into it. Mm-hmm. So it is Salo, which I don't know if you knew this. Salo is the name for the Nazi kind of puppet regime that took over Italy in the waning years of World War II.
No, I didn't know that.
So this
I remember heard of Vichy France, which is was the puppet regime in France.
They call it a rump regime or something. Like the state had kind of atrophied because like the northern their troops were exhausted because they had to do X, Y, and Z before actually entering the fray. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have like enough troops to fully extend into Africa as they had wanted to make this new Holy Roman Empire. So, they end up losing, and, Mussolini is strung up on the streets before World War II even comes to a close. But in the meantime, like the northern Italy, I believe, is where it was located, is kind of taken under the wing of some Nazis. And this movie is the scathing commentary of what
transpires.
Pier Paolo Pasolini thought of the fascists that took over Italy post 42 or 43.
Yeah.
It's based on a Marquis de Sade novel, and so I read 3/10 of the book. Mm-hmm. Had to stop because it was just kind of felt like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah,
I'm reading this disgusting shit for fucking, like...
perverting my mind.
Yeah, I'm like 3 hours in, and I'm like, I don't know if whatever. But the movie covered, to my memory, pretty similarly to what is covered in the book, just maybe less detail. Mm-hmm. So the book might be more brutal, but if you're visual, I mean, visual is always going to be a little bit more intense.
Yeah.
I knew what I was getting into going into it, and that's why I was like dreading watching this film. Mm-hmm. It's considered the most disturbing movie for some people, and it's not my number one. I think because I went into it knowing just how bad things were going to be. So it starts... The whole thing is they round up youths to be their kind of like muscle. So they give them these uniforms, like they're just like street hoodlums. They pick them up off the street. You're an officer now. You're an officer.
Right.
And then they go and they intermarry between their daughters, which I honestly, there's a lot of women who are in the same age range, and I can't keep track of names because that happens up top. I don't know if they're in the group of people they bring in. I think not. I don't know what happens with that, but you're supposed to assume that these gross guys are with each other's daughters, which is just kind of weird, but whatever. Then they go to these, they call them, it's a Spanish name, whatever. Not senora, but co-senora, something like that. Mm-hmm. Whatever. They're like headmasters of these schools. So they've used bogus stories to get these girls in this like orphanage. So they're like, oh, we got her out of a private school by saying XYZ.
Right.
They're all there, and they just go and they just scout 9 women, 9 men. And they give them these rules before they enter their grand palace. Like, no, you'll be punished if there's any form of praying, religion. There's to be no male on female relations between the group of youngsters. Mm-hmm. And you have to follow their whims without question. And so there's these 4 kind of headmistresses. They tell stories every day to these disgusting, gross stories to kind of inspire the 4 guys. There's a duke, there's a prime minister, there's a president, there's a vice president, I think. Just to kind of open their imagination to doing gross stuff with the youngsters. And a couple of them die early on. And what this seemingly their goal is, and it's not like they go into this, but you can only see what their actions and draw the through line to their motivation is to basically dehumanize this small subset of society. And I mean, that's what the commentary is about, is that they roll with an iron fist, this fascist regime that took over, and their kind of ideology is inhumane. It's anti-humanistic, I think. Because you're trying to pervert physical relations.
Yeah.
You're trying to rip away any higher meaning through taking faith away.
Yeah.
And you're trying to pull away any hope of things getting better.
Okay.
Because they're stuck there. So there's poo. They eat the poo poo in this movie. That's one of the grossest scenes.
Would that kill you? I mean, I've heard of that.
I wouldn't. If you continually did it, I think you couldn't sustain yourself.
Bacteria? Well, I know that, but is there,
I think Ebola.
Not only that, I mean, like thousands. I mean, I think there's like the bubonic plague germs on your crap.
Yeah, I am. But it's going back through the digestive tract, so I don't know. I think you could very well get sick. Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, even if there's trace amounts, you could get sick, but I don't know if it would. If you rolled the dice enough, you'd probably die.
Right.
I just don't know how.
But they probably didn't do it.
It was just like for one of the dinners, that was the dinner. So that was not.
Is that your phone?
No, I think that's yours.
Okay. Talk while I'm interested in fecal matter and death.
So they eat the poo poo. There's some pee play, which is not fun to think about. Obviously, there's relations amongst the boys and the men, which is also not fun. Humiliation is at play. The stories are really gross. And it ends with pretty much just the torture of, like, anyone who broke rules throughout the movie. And that's how it ends.
Wow.
But it's really well shot.
Cinematography is A+.
It really is. And quite frankly, like, the commentary, this is a movie that I would say is really easy to diminish or just kind of like, it's just torture, it's just gore, it's just gross. But, I mean, that regime probably was horrific. German Nazis kind of holding sway over a country. I mean, why wouldn't you abuse your power? It's not even your people necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were not known for
their niceties.
Yeah, they were it's only minimally toxic.
De poo poo.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense because it's, it's...
They say a mouthful of human or animal poop, they use the old medical term for it, is considered to be non-toxic.
Wow.
But not appetizing.
Take that to your doctor.
I don't care how many
time.
spices you use. That's not going to...
Can't polish a turd.
True that.
Yeah, so what I recommend... I mean, it's a movie that I think is worth watching once, but, I mean, I don't think I'm going to watch it again.